Hey folks, it's Mary, aka MercyTriumphs, and this is Slow Crochet. I am doing some batch filming of the introductions and the closings of the videos that I want to have in the month of January of 2025. So this is my intro to my more kind of vloggy style catching up with Christmassy makes. So yes, this is the Christmas video. I know it's January for y'all, but even now, which is end of December 2024, I am cleaning up little bits and pieces. Like I need to take these little Christmas hats down and make sure I store those for the future. Yeah, I love kind of cleaning up and getting ready for the new year. And part of that is kind of sorting through Christmas. So that's what this video is. This is the kind of vlog you'll hear me go from excited about maybe I will return to YouTube, maybe I won't, that kind of thing. But it will be an emphasis on the kind of Christmassy stuff. So with that in mind, I will see you in the past and then I'll catch back up with you in the present. Hello, people of the future. It's Mary of the past. Today, as I record, it is November 19th, 2024. And y'all, I have put up my video a couple of weeks ago of not doing the channel, at least for the time being, but I miss it. I miss y'all. And so I thought, let me go ahead and see if I can just record a couple of little snippets of me, because maybe in the future I'll get to put these together again and I'll have a nice little montage of like where I've been. Yeah, I legit miss you guys so much. But I do see why I kind of needed a little break. So our family kind of went through some sickness and I wouldn't have been able to record on my schedule anyway. And then as I speak right now, I'm looking at a very busy next few weeks leading into Thanksgiving, and then the Christmas holidays are always really busy and wild. So kind of having things back off of my plate is it's pretty important, a lot more important than I realize. I tend to fill my plate so full and then I just can't finish it all, so to speak, but more in regards to just filling up my time. So in the meantime, I have been crocheting. Of course I've been crocheting. And I've been trying to keep up a little bit with comments or emails, things like that. So if you have sent me an email or if you have reached out to me, I hope that I've responded to you in a timely manner. If not, life is what it is. You guys understand how busy it can be. In terms of what I've been crocheting, it's been a little bit challenging, to be honest. I've been trying to kind of find my footing and make some choices about what I want to be working on. Without having the channel ongoing, I have not been really pushing myself, and so things are going at a slower pace. So I had my scrap blanket that kind of came to a stopping point. I kind of ran out of scraps, which is not a bad thing at all. And then I also bought some new yarn to start a new blanket that's going to take forever. The plan is, I think, 120 little squares that I'm going to then do join as you go around that. I ordered some yarn. I picked up some yarn from Joann's. I've done a few little projects here and there, but yeah, mostly I miss you guys. I miss getting to talk about yarn and crochet with y'all. But yeah, that's it for as of right now. Nothing to show at the moment. I'm just jumping on here for a minute, just in case, maybe come the new year, I'll be able to put this out there. Folks, today is December 21st and I wanted to get on here for a minute and talk to you guys about something that I've been making for Christmas. Now, as a crocheter, I tend actually not to try to overwhelm myself with Christmas gifts or like making gifts with a deadline for people, but I have crocheted a few things for friends and family for Christmas. One of them is some of these tiny little frogs. And I made like some peppermint frogs using a certain yarn from Joann's. I'll have it listed here. Here's a photo of them as well, but I made those for my neighbors. This is not the same yarn. This is, I think, like Sunset, the color Sunset from Hobby Lobby. I love this yarn. Anyway, did some peppermint frogs. And I also have made a Grinch off of Ella from No Catchy Name Crochet. I've made a Grinch based on her tutorial that'll be listed below. That is already wrapped up now, and here's a photo. If you follow me on Instagram, you've probably seen it. But I am working on 2 other crochet projects, and I wanted to show you those because they are nearly finished, and I'm actually really proud of them. I'm proud of them because a year ago, or maybe more, maybe even when I started my channel, I would not have attempted these at all. And they are from the book Pokemon Crochet. So this book is by Sabrina Summers. I think there are two versions of this book. There is a second one. This one is a library book for me, and it's gotten a lot of love. Okay, so this one was published in 2021, and I think it's still pretty readily available. I think you can find it at like Michael's or, of course, Amazon, maybe even thrift books. But this has a bunch of different amigurumi patterns for Pokemon, and it is the official licensed Nintendo designs. So this all has the approval of the Pokemon Company. So it's one of those like intellectual properties where if you come up with your own pattern or your own design for it, it's kind of frowned upon to actually sell those patterns. And it really is a trademark, and especially Pokemon, it's well known here in the States, but it's really an international phenomenon. Y'all might remember, what was it, 2017 that Pokemon Go launched? Anyhow, I have a soft spot in my heart for Pokemon. It's a big thing in my family right now. So I got the book and I told children that they could choose out of a certain number of the designs in here, and I would make them the Pokemon of their choice. Now, this is my first time to work out of this book. It's not my first time to make a Pokemon. I've used a couple of other designs before, free patterns, and I've heard some things about this book as well as the second version, which is by a different author. I'm rambling, y'all, but I hope you don't mind. I'm a little out of practice with doing these videos. All that to say, I wanted to give some of my thoughts on the designs that I chose because I had read some reviews and some crocheters seem to have some challenges with these designs and the way that the patterns are written. So here are basically my thoughts. Let me show you where I'm at so far. I haven't embroidered the faces. In the patterns, it does call for, I think, felt faces and a little bit of embroidery, but I'm going to go full embroidery. So my first one is this guy here. This is Charmander. So he's going to have those big wide eyes, little nose slits, and a happy mouth. But I did manage to get a flame on his tail. I used a comb and just combed it out there to make it nice and fluffy. And then the other one that I did is Squirtle. So I am not going to go into a lot of detail on the back here, but I did do a little of the embroidery in front, and so then again the big eyes, the little smile, the little nostrils there, and then he will be done. First thoughts, I didn't go with your standard colors. I went with what I had in my stash as close as I could, except I did have to buy, I think this is Red Heart Super Saver, I think the color is Pumpkin, just because that is a lot of orange yarn and it requires a lot to get this out. So now I have some orange. I have some orange and white, and we'll do some UT things in the future. I am sure. Watch this space for donated hats and scarves, right? But I went with what I had. I had to play a little bit of yarn chicken on this kind of medium brown here, this kind of tan color. But overall, I think they've turned out pretty well. Now, I will do my best to finish the faces. They will be done for Christmas. They're probably going to be peeking out of some stockings. And these were the ones that were chosen. I only allowed the children to choose from the first, I think, 13 designs. There are 3 different levels in this book of how challenging the patterns are. And so I said, let's only go with the first 2 because at that point I knew I could actually finish them in time for Christmas. And yeah, we still have 3 days. I can definitely embroider on some faces in 3 days. And also, as tight as these are, I did use worsted weight yarn, and I did use, I think, a 3.75 millimeter hook. That tends to hurt my fingers. And so, especially in the repetitiveness of it, I needed to break it up with some other projects. So that is what I've been doing. So all that to say, today I finished sewing on my limbs. And that is one point that I want to make about these designs. They do require quite a bit of sewing. So this little guy, this Charmander, the head and the body is one piece here, you can see, but then everything else is sewn on. Now for Squirtle, you had a separate head and a separate body and a separate shell and a separate tail and limbs. and those all had to be sewn on. So not exactly my favorite, but I do understand, especially to make sure that those are at the right angles. It would be really hard to crochet that out, I suppose. The reason that I tend not to like a lot of sewing is because I feel like that puts so much more variation in the design, and so it's a lot harder to make your finished product look exactly like the pattern because you can sew on in so many different ways and things can get just a little bit crooked. And so the perfectionist in me that is continually on its deathbed, right? I don't actually want to be a perfectionist. I want to do things well, but I don't want to be trapped in perfectionism. But sometimes it rears its ugly head and I have to fight that and think, oh, these legs are not quite symmetrical. And as you do, right, we're so much harder on ourselves than the recipients would be. That being said, I do want to talk about a few changes that I made to these patterns to make them easier. Number one, the patterns all called for separate fingers and separate toes. Now, I did not want to crochet 4 and then 4 again in a magic ring and sew on all those little toes. So I just substituted out some puff stitches there, or no, some bubble stitches for the fingers. And then for the toes at the round, this was a round where I think you were decreasing. So instead of doing regular decreases, I think I just switched into some white yarn and I did 2 double crochets together to make those kind of toenails. And then even at the bottom, the pattern does call for some felt foot pads here. And I just started my foot in yellow and then color changed over to the orange. The last thing that I did on Charmander to make him different, and I just wanted to note, was I'm really proud of myself, I have to say. I feel like I've come so far. In the pattern, it calls for a separate foot and a separate leg, and then you put the leg on at a certain angle, and then you sew on the foot at a certain angle. But I did it all in one piece, and I did short rows to try to get my angle. And so in that sense, I started at the foot with the color change, came on up, did my double crochet 2 together instead of single crochet 2 together to make my little toenails, and then decreased on around, and then I figured out a way to do some short rows. He looks a little bit more muscular maybe, and I had to kind of move the legs in a little bit more than he shows in the pattern, but I am really kind of proud of myself for figuring out a way to do that. And I think I did like 9 stitches, just went forward and then backwards and then on around to build him out a little bit on the side. And y'all, even saying that, even talking about building out the shape, I feel like it's just a reflection of some of the wonderful amigurumi designers that I've followed, or the challenges that we've faced, even through things like Cassandra over Craftably Ever After. She is so wonderful with crochet alongs and kind of encouraging us to go outside of our comfort zones. Another favorite of mine, y'all know, is Complicated Knots, Kylie, who is so wonderful. She did the little mini frog, but in following some of her tutorials or just watching her process videos of how she designs crochet, she'll talk through doing short rows. Like even if she's doing a video where she's, say, covering a canvas with various shapes, she'll talk about her process as she is demonstrating it. And I have learned so much from her, and it's given me a lot of confidence to do things like modify and really make a significant difference here. So I'm really proud of the way that these have turned out so far. I think the eyes, again, there might be a little bit of challenge there, but I also feel really confident that I'll be able to overcome it and they'll be great and well received at Christmas. I do want to say too, on the note of Squirtle, similar things. I did little toe beans. I did puff stitches or bobble stitches instead of your standard single crochets at that point. And I also did not want to make a bunch of toes and sew them on. I didn't want to make a bunch of fingers and sew them on. So I did those all in one piece. And then the other thing was on this edging on the shell here, that was called for to be a separate piece that you sewed on. And instead of doing that, I just slip stitched around and then single crocheted onto that slip stitch. It made it a little bit puffier here. I did not stuff the shell, because this piece right here is all one. I don't know, I think it's a little bit fun. It gives a little bit of extra texture in there that it's not kind of flush against his body. I don't know, maybe you can imagine that he's storing some of his water back there for his water gun attack, something like that. Anyway, that is those two mostly done. I did warn the children that some of this embroidery, it's not really tight. So if you get your finger up under there, I'm not really going to be able to fix it. So be kind to your handmade toys. They were made with a lot of love, a lot of heart, but also just a lot of joy. It's so wonderful to feel accomplished in the things that we make, and to be able to look at something and to see how far we've come over a relatively short amount of time. And honestly, like, I don't actually put a whole lot of effort into learning new skills here. I kind of do it in a gentle way. I don't really want my hobbies to challenge me. I want to be able to feel restful in my hobbies. And that's what this is. So to see the progress in these two things in particular, I just had to come on and share with y'all. So you could, I don't know, hopefully be encouraged yourself. So now I am curious about you. What is something that you felt really accomplished with in your crochet journey? Are you doing something now that a year ago, a couple of years ago, you never imagined you'd be doing? Please do let me know in the comments below. That would be so delightful. I'd love to connect with y'all down there. Y'all, this is why I am not harsh to tell my children that I'm not going to make things for them. So here's the situation. I was ready to embroider on the faces on these Pokemon that I've been crocheting for the kids for Christmas. They've known about it. They know I'm working on them. And I said to my one that is a particular fan of Pokemon, and very particular, and I said this morning, I said, actually, honey, I'm feeling kind of afraid. I'm nervous that I'm going to try to do these faces and it's not going to be good enough. It's not going to be what you want. And that child said, oh, don't worry, Mommy. You can just do sleepy eyes. I said, great. Could I do happy eyes instead of sleepy eyes? And they said, sure. So that is what I did on Squirtle. Squirtle has nice round embroidered happy eyes. He's fine. He's not exactly the same, but you know what? This is a crocheted handmade item. It's not going to look exactly like a cartoon drawing in 2D. So come time for Charmander, and I am working and I present sleepy eye or happy eye, and it's not quite right. So I say, okay, what do you want? We go through this whole rigmarole. Long story short, I end up doing about 4 different embroidered faces on this Charmander. And finally I said, because my husband came and was doing some work from home, I said, go see Daddy, take a minute with Daddy, get your heart settled and see what we can do, because the communication was just really challenging. I said, well, if you don't like it, tell me what you do want. Well, that child wanted what is in this book, which are felt eyes. So finally, Daddy comes in and says, oh, hey, how about you learn to crochet, child? And you can see how challenging those eyes are. And then Daddy started looking through the book and said, oh, these are felt eyes. I do tabletop crafting, tabletop gaming. When Christmas is done, we will go and get some felt and we will make felt eyes, and we will replace whatever eyes you have with the felt eyes. So that is going to be the solution. But here's what we have at present. Not bad. It's colors. I know it's not ever going to look exactly like this, but it was more the challenge of kind of going through, just modifying your expectations, just ratcheting them down, and then learning how to communicate. So that's been the challenge here. You know, I put in a lot of time in these, time that I could have been doing other things. And it was a great process, and I actually wanted to. I didn't feel really drained or stressed by it. But here at the end, it's like, oh, the face makes such a difference on a crocheted critter. And so it really does make or break the whole design. And so I knew it was going to be challenging. Sure enough, it was. But I just wanted to get on here and just say, okay, we are done. And maybe in the future, we will take these off entirely. I did end up doing a combination of just regular worsted weight yarn and embroidery thread. But nevertheless, that's what it is. And in the future, I will not be volunteering to crochet anything for my children. I will say, hey, remember when I crocheted Charmander and I couldn't get it to look quite right, how about you save your money and buy what you really want that looks just right to you, rather than me making you something that might not be quite right. So that's the learning curve for us. And again, that's why I have those kind of strict boundaries, just because it's so hard to go from the pattern that you see in a book, and you just never can. It's never going to look exactly like it does in these books or in these patterns. So it's hard to communicate that expectation and that reality to a little person. So anyway, all that to say, not really drama, but just some communication there. And I thought I would jump in here and just add that in, because now it's done. And today is December 23rd. And so I am done ahead of schedule. And now I get to just do what I want to do. Well, I don't get to do what I want to do. I got to go do some Christmassy holiday food prep stuff. But I'm done with crocheting, except for the things that really are bringing me joy. So I'm going to go do that now, and I will talk to you later. Bye. Yay. So I'm so glad that y'all could come with me on this little rambly adventure and kind of see my process over time, and also sharing my joy with some of those Christmassy makes, those Pokemon in particular. I will say one last update on that Charmander Pokemon, where the day was saved because my wonderful husband suggested that they make felt eyes together. Well, I took the children to the craft store yesterday and we looked at felt, and the child in question said, "You know what, Mommy, I like the eyes that I have. I don't want to spend my money on felt. We'll just go with the eyes that we have." And instead, that child went on to buy some Pokemon cards. So I am really glad that even though I went through a lot of effort to make those eyes and did them 4 or 5 times, eventually we are at a place where there's peace and joy, and that creature, that creation is well loved. And that's really what it's all about, right? We make things because we love the person we're making them for. And there is this dynamic too of, I want you to appreciate it, especially if you're talking with me, you're watching the process as we go along. So all that to say, wonderful experience. Glad that all the Christmas makes are over, and I already am. I have a book on hold actually. I'm not sure when I'll get it, but I've already started to think about crochet for Christmas for next year. We had some kind of modifications, some changes in some of the traditions that we did, but I think what I would love to do is maybe do a Christmas Advent, like an amigurumi Advent, and maybe just like a 12 days of Christmas thing. But I realized that some of the Advent things that we had been doing weren't really hitting as well as I wanted them to. And I thought it would be fun maybe doing like a crochet nativity that could kind of double as an Advent or 12 days of Christmas thing. Anyway, that's really my only thought about crocheting for Christmas at this point. But as you do every year, you kind of reflect on what has passed and what you liked and what you didn't. I feel like every year we try to say, I'm going to eat less sugar. I'm not going to be so busy. Good luck, because even less is still more because of the season. I'm rambling. All that to say, thank you so much for spending some time with me today. Thank you for allowing me to process crochet and Christmas together, even though it's January. Thank you so much for being part of my life, for sharing this adventure with me. And yeah, just being my yarny people. I love that I can share all this with y'all and ramble as I do. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for liking, reaching out, all that kind of good, wonderful stuff. Y'all are wonderful. Merry Christmas belatedly. Happy New Year belatedly. If for whatever reason I'm not your cup of tea, thank you so much for listening this long. I do appreciate you, and I do hope I'll see you again soon. Bye. Goodbye. 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 Goodbye.